the radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome to the new look of the Yaron Brook Show. At least for the next few weeks while we get stuff organized. This is the new office, new camera. The camera's cool. And in the back, ultimately, there will be some nice bookshelves and everything else, but no hanging right now. Everything is in flux. The condo is under construction. We're living in these 2 rooms while the condo is being constructed, including our future bedroom. So, yeah, it's dust everywhere, construction materials everywhere, contractors everywhere, plumbers everywhere. It's going to be interesting. Super busy. So, yeah, there haven't been shows in a while, but we're going to get back into the groove here. Spent the whole weekend basically packing and moving, 4 whole days doing that. And we are moved. Now we need to get construction done so we can actually start having a proper life. Right now it's a little bizarre and a little crazy. Anyway, thank you all for joining me tonight. I figured a lot of going on in the news, like I have a whole list of stuff from the news. I don't know what we'll get to, we'll get to a few topics I mentioned. We'll try to get to some other topics as well. And party in my pad after we're done. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be amazing. But we have to get done first. That's a goal. All right, so we're going to do kind of a news thing. I don't want to talk about Trump. Why would I talk about Trump? I've got nothing new to say about Trump. I've said it all. Best friend Hank decided to spur me with try to get me with a Trump comment. All right, so a lot to talk about. And, we've got already questions flowing in. So that's always good. I don't know if Alejandrina is here. Maybe I announced the show too late and the message didn't get to Venezuela. But in any case, we have to live up to expectations, which is $400. Start June strong. Maybe we can get to $1,000. But we should start June strong. Set the tone for the month. This is an important source of revenue for the Yaron Brook Show. We want to continue its significance. Okay, I assume audio is good. Picture looks good. We're ready to roll. So let's talk about Asian. We'll get to AMC. I promise, Jonathan. You haven't been to an AMC theater yet? And your research doesn't justify that AMC is going to roar back and going to be hugely profitable? Anyway, we'll get to AMC and Gamestop in a little bit. I guess it's going to take longer for them to go back to their fundamental values than I thought. Is it worth $30 billion? Well, based on the number of people going to see the movies right now, it's hard to justify a $3 price on it based on value of that kind of real estate. I'm not sure what it's worth. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I think it's much worse than just the valuation being off. There are real consequences to this. We'll talk about it. All right, let's talk about discrimination against Asians. It's been in the news a lot over the last few months. Asians getting beat up, Asians getting attacked across the United States. Some of it is real, I am sure. Some of it is just bogus, like the shooting in Atlanta, I think had nothing to do with hatred of Asians and had everything to do with, a sick individual and his sexual perversions. But the mainstream media is pounding on this issue of hate against Asians, and you're seeing the same thing. You're seeing the same thing in Congress, right? Congress passed like a bill about hate crimes against Asians, and it passed, and everybody supports this. And again, there's no question in my mind that it is happening. The scale, the hysteria is probably out of proportion. But putting that aside, I think there's a much more concerning discrimination against Asians, racial bias against Asians, and thuggery, really, at the end of the day, against Asians. And that is a growing number of schools around the country who are engaging in policies that, that discriminate against Asians on purpose because they're successful, because they're smart, because they get good grades, because they test well. And I talked, about a year ago, maybe less, maybe more, I can't tell anymore, about the Harvard case that went to the courts. I think it's going to go to the Supreme Court, where Harvard is being accused of discriminating against Asians, and the courts ruled against. In other words, the courts ruled for Harvard, against the plaintiffs, and defended the discriminatory policies. Well, George Will has a story in the Washington Post, has a column in the Washington Post that I thought was really good and worth sharing with you. And it's about a school in Virginia. It's a STEM magnet school. I think it's a public school. So this is government, right? And it's got a national reputation for excellence. This is STEM, math, sciences. And this is one of the most respected schools in the country, really, and it is a school that every parent who cares about their kid's education, every parent who cares whose kid is interested in STEM, wants their kid to go to. But the school has a racial diversity problem. The school board has decided. The student body is comprised of 73% Asians, 17.7% whites, 3.3% Hispanic, or Latino, I guess, 1% black, and 6% other, whatever the hell other means, right? Given now, the problem here is that the county is not 73% Asian. Asians are just excelling above and beyond their representation in the county. In the county, only 20% are Asians. 60% are whites, 17% Hispanic, and 10% black. So of all the groups, the group most oppressed by this are whites. Right? Asians are 20% of the county, 73% of the kids in the school. Now the school uses standardized tests to admit kids. I don't know what tests, I don't know how good the tests are. But this is viewed as a discriminatory policy. Too many Asians are getting into school. Too few whites, Hispanics, and blacks are getting into school. Parents are complaining. We're seeing similar things at top schools in Boston, top schools in New York. Asians are too politically significant in California for this to be an issue there. Although Berkeley has a problem where Asians are way overrepresented in Berkeley, and Berkeley's not happy about that. And of course, the school board is saying, no, 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 no. This is not about race. This is about standardized tests. We want to use a more holistic metric. We want the student body to be more representative of the community. So we're doing away with standardized testing. And we're going to create this holistic test in order to bring in. The principal of the school regretted that the school is not, quote, more demographically representative of the region. And he vowed to, quote, advance the representative demographics, i.e. whites. You know, the school board spoke of, a member spoke of a culture of Virginia's selective schools being not as healthy as it should be. Not as healthy. Asian, not as healthy. Talk about racism. Another member said TJ's majority Asian American culture is toxic. Toxic. I wonder what these Asian Americans are doing that is toxic. So, basically, parents are complaining that their kids can't get in because the Asians are raising the standards too high. Because Asian culture, for better or for worse, emphasizes education, emphasizes standardized testing, emphasizes getting good at them. Right. Now, so far, you know, we will see what happens. The courts are now very sympathetic to the school board. The courts see this as the attempt to do away with standardized testing and to reflect the community as overtly racist. The Supreme Court has upheld other cases in which, you know, they would throw out the school board's effort. But we will see. We will see. Now, what is behind this? What is behind this? Well, I think there are a couple of things behind it. One is racism against Asians. A toxic culture. It's exactly what you say about a culture you don't like, that you want suppressed. And of course, this is not new. Remember, the first immigration laws passed in the United States were passed in order to limit immigration from China. In order to restrict Chinese immigration, they were taking away jobs from Irish immigrants, from Italian immigrants. And Italian and Irish immigrants were more similar to the locals, so it was okay to restrict them. Chinese were considered impossible of assimilation. They had vile habits. They were swarmed by the thousands to our shores like the frogs of Egypt, is the quote. So there is an element of tribalism, racism, people in the street. It's the same racism that manifests itself in physical violence. Here's manifesting itself in restricting access to elite education from children. From children. Now, I think there's something more going on here, though. Something more woke, if you will. Something more kind of leftist culture. And that is the left's infatuation with egalitarianism. What this really is an attempt to pull down the able, an attempt to penalize success. An attempt to penalize smart people for being smart. Penalize successful people for being successful. Penalize hard work, because that's what the Asians do. They work hard. Penalize studying hard, preparing for tests. It's a hatred, envy. Hatred of the good for being the good. A tearing down of all that is successful, good, positive. For the sake of what? For the sake of mediocrity. For the sake of demographic representation. For the sake of the average, the normal, the standard, fill in the blank. So, the real racism, or not the real racism, because there's racism all over the place, but I would say the scarier racism, the racism that will have a bigger impact on the Asian community than any other form of racism, is the racism of educational institutions to limit access to Asians from the best schools. It is harmful to America, it's harmful to this community, it's harmful to able kids, to successful kids. This is the hatred of the able, the hatred of success, the hatred of the smart. So, just horrific. And you see this in school after school after school. By the way, very similar. These holistic measures are very, very similar to the attempts of Ivy League schools in the early part of the 20th century to exclude Jews. Again, it was about, schools' culture and geographic preferences and demographic representation and, quote, character considerations were all ways in which Ivy League schools restricted Jews, because there was a period where Jews were this dominating admission into Ivy League schools, and that was not acceptable. And therefore they came up with all these criteria that weren't overtly anti-Semitic, but basically that's exactly what they were. All right, so beware of that kind of racism, powerful stuff, dangerous stuff. All right, Best Fig Hank asks, even though it's not a $20 question, I have to answer this sooner rather than later because it's urgent. He says, I will be grilling beef hamburgers soon over charcoal. How many times should they be turned and how much time on each side? I don't know, but I would love a hamburger right now. Oh, God, my mouth is watering. A good hamburger, which is unfortunately hard to find in Puerto Rico. At least I haven't found one. Oh, my God. Yeah, so best friend Hank, send one over sooner rather than later. Camera is a little blurry? What are you talking about? The camera's super sharp on me and blurry on the background. That's on purpose. Can't get it much better than this. All right. Gamestop and AMC. Where's Jonathan Honing? The madness continues. All right, so Best Friend Hank sends over $20, I guess, to send me over to the local restaurant to buy a hamburger. I wish there was a hamburger sold for $20. The hamburgers here are really, really cheap and not that good. The $20 burgers in California, God, some of those were good burgers. I miss that. One of the few things I miss in California. GameStop and AMC continues longer than expected, the irrationality. Prices through the roof. AMC has a valuation of $30 billion. AMC is the movie theater chain. Movie theaters. With now 75 and 85-inch televisions selling for close to $1,000. You can get a 75-inch for under $1,000. Amazing sound bars that project Dolby Atmos. And people kind of getting used to watching movies at home. Netflix and Prime and Apple TV releasing movie premieres online, not in theaters. Is AMC really a bet on the future? Is AMC really the hot thing that is going to revolutionize the world? No, but some people on Reddit decided that it's worth $30 billion. And they ganged up on the market, and they've bought these stocks and driven their stock prices up beyond recognition, beyond any connection to fundamentals, beyond any connection to reality. And they could keep them there for a while. Maybe it's a long while. I don't know how long it would go. But they could keep driving it up. At some point, people will realize the true value. At some point, the Reddit crowd will get bored with AMC and GameStop and move on. GameStop, remember those retail stores that sell you video games. They've got an online strategy, which pretty much lots of other people do, including Amazon, to sell games online. Okay, maybe that's worth something, not the kind of valuations it's getting. Not clear what the AMC strategy is. But here's the beauty of this. Both companies have used this high stock price to issue shares. Some hedge funds have actually bought those shares, ridden up the uptick, and sold it all. So they've made a lot of money. So much for GameStop and AMC destroying hedge funds. They've actually made hedge funds a lot of money. AMC has raised several hundred millions of dollars. It's going to go on a buying spree. Not clear what it's going to buy. Cinemas. It already is a dominant chain. Maybe to buy cinemas. Maybe diversify into another area. But why does anybody believe that this management team at AMC is going to change the world? Is going to make so much money to justify a $30 billion valuation? There's just nothing in reality that would support that. So this is a massive misallocation of capital. It is sending all the wrong signals to markets. It's allowing companies that should be able to raise capital. It's a sign. It tells the world that markets can be irrational. It tells the world that so-called markets can fail. It's creating a very negative, I think, view of capitalism and its effectiveness in allocating capital. And it's doing, as a consequence, immense damage to the U.S. economy, to stock markets, to trust in capitalism, to an understanding of how markets work. All of that because a bunch of bored Reddit investors during COVID ganged up together to manipulate stock prices. By the way, if hedge funds had ganged up together to manipulate stock prices, they would be prosecuted by the SEC. It's illegal. Individuals can do it, even in large numbers. Now, it shouldn't be illegal. Granted, it shouldn't be illegal. The market should play out. But of course, if the market played out, I doubt GameStop and AMC invested would survive in a free market. They wouldn't survive for very long. They'd be wiped out very quickly. What's protecting them is the regulated nature of markets today. So yeah, Jonathan, GameStop, AMC, a bunch of other, BlackBerry's skyrocketing. What's BlackBerry going to do exactly? It's been beaten, killed. The iPhone killed the BlackBerry. Well, of course, if you invested in GameStop and AMC, and like Robert, use the proceeds in order to do your super chats, then I'm all with you. Actually, Robert says he uses Dogecoin, pays the super chat bills, so I'm good. He says he's kidding. And unfortunately, AMC and GameStop are not funny because it's real damage. It's real economic damage that all of us will pay a price for in ways that we will never know. In the bad reputation of capitalism and financial markets, and directly in an inefficient allocation of capital across the U.S. economy, which affects our quality and standard of living. All right, remind people to like the show before you leave. Don't leave, but don't forget to like the show. And of course, don't forget to use Super Chat to ask questions, make contributions, generally support the show. You can do so. I can't keep track of how much dollars we've raised already because Alejandrina is not with us. I don't know, you guys scare her away or something? I'm not sure where she is. But my guess is we've got maybe $100 raised so far, maybe a little over $100. So it's a long way to go. We've got to get to $400, and some of you I know can do $50 questions, $100 questions. This is a great date to do it for a show of June. Let's start off with a bang, a good financial bang. Take all those GameStop profits, pour them in here, Dogecoin or Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you probably made a fortune on Bitcoin. All right. I mean, even the crypto is not. Thank you, Shelly. Really appreciate that. Even crypto is not a joke, right? The real consequences to, I think, people viewing valuation as a game, people viewing, the 5,000 cryptocurrencies. What does that say about markets? What does that say about our perception of money? What does that say about investor rationality? What does that say about the world in which we live? And people are making a fortune based on what? I mean, there are millionaires now, maybe even certainly millionaires, centimillionaires, off of Dogecoin. But what does it represent? What does it mean? What value have they created? Yet they become gazillionaires. Bitcoin, you could argue, is the beginning of something. And there's value in its creation and its hype because it will breed, I think, real uses on the blockchain. But what is Dogecoin? Somebody says they sent me Bitcoin years ago. I don't have it. Maybe it's in a wallet somewhere that I don't even know, sitting there and worth gazillions of dollars. I don't know. Let me know in what sense you sent me a Bitcoin, if that's even true. Hiram says that he sent his super chats to the Iran Book Show with a BlackBerry PRIV. I don't know what that is. In cute, segolized, rip-off brand holster, master-size cell phone cover. I don't know what any of that means. And my real question is why? I mean, Hiram, you must be the only person in the world still using a BlackBerry. I loved my BlackBerry when I had one. I had one in the 2000s. I loved my BlackBerry. But, the world evolved from that. Right. Let's see. All right, GameStop and AMC. Israel. I want to say a little bit about Israel and Gaza. Two stories related here. One is about Gaza. You want to see altruism at work in foreign policy? Watch what's going on in Gaza right now. It's pretty amazing. The world is just rushing to help Gaza rebuild. I guess so Israel can knock it down again in 5 to 7 years. Gazans are getting contributions by cryptocurrency because some countries don't allow you to contribute money to Hamas because it's considered a terrorist organization. She would be supporting terrorism. So people are using Bitcoin and other cryptos to send money to Hamas to help rebuild Gaza. Or, as the case may be, buy new missiles from the Iranians or from the Russians or whoever sell them. So, everybody is rushing to help the poor Hamas so that they can rebuild, they can reestablish themselves, fire rockets into Israel in a few years when it's convenient for them politically, have Israel destroy everything, and then they rebuild. And by the way, every time they rebuild, certain leaders within Hamas pocket, maybe they pocket 5%. But we're talking about tens of billions of dollars. 5% is a lot of money. So it makes, and that's 5% for them personally. Maybe 10% goes to buying missiles. Maybe 20% goes to buying missiles. Even Israel is engaged in negotiations around rebuilding Gaza. Now, Israel claims to have all kinds of conditions, like the money won't be used to buy missiles. But wait a minute. Of course the money's going to be used to buy missiles. What other money did the Gazans have to buy missiles from? What productive assets did they deploy from which they make a profit that they could buy missiles? No, they get missiles from the international aid that the U.S. and others are providing. The Biden administration has already said that they will make, quote, significant contributions to rebuilding Gaza. Man, the super chat, the chat today is dominated by my request for a hamburger. So what condiments do you prefer in your burger? Sesame seed bun or not? No, I mean, what I really want is no bun. I want jalapenos, some avocado, some lettuce, tomato. Oh, I'm getting so hungry. Yeah, but the most important thing about a burger is the meat. First of all, it has to be real meat. None of this fake meat stuff, right? It has to be real meat. It has to be juicy. It has to be thick. And it has to have some seasoning in it to make it flavorful. But just in case, put some jalapenos on there so we can get some heat. But yeah, no bun for me. If you want a bun, if you can get a brioche, if you're going to make it a bun, there would have to be, to tempt me, it would have to be like a brioche, a really flavorful brioche. That would be fantastic. For those of you just joining the show, we're discussing the kind of hamburgers I like. We've even got a question about the best burger place in Orange County. I don't remember. I used to go to this place called Black's Burgers. They had a good burger, but the last time I was there, service was so bad, I swore never to go back. All right, let's see. It's hard to discuss the stock market with people because no one understands how much government regulations have distorted how they operate. See Noah Smith's recent article on Elon Musk's crazy Twitter feed, for example. I mean, absolutely. The government completely distorts stock market, its regulations, its control of the stock exchanges, the SEC, insider trading. And I'm going to do a show on Elon Musk's tweets. I've got it listed here somewhere on tweets and insider trading. That will be a topic of a show soon. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely difficult. And what makes it more difficult is the irrationality of so many of the market participants, particularly these. So it makes it more and more and more difficult. to talk about capitalism, talk about freedom, to talk about markets, talk about allocation of capital, to talk about the heroism of financiers. Because what people see is the nonsense going on. All right. So that was Gaza. So Israel, again, lost the war. Why did it lose the war? Because, 200 Palestinians died, but Hamas doesn't care. A few buildings were destroyed. That's great for Hamas. They get to build them better next time. Maybe more modern, maybe with better air conditioning, for which the electricity for that air conditioning is provided by Israel. They'll get a rebuild. The leadership will become rich because it will skim off the top. It gained massive international sympathy. It stood up for the Palestinian people, supposedly, so the Palestinians increased their support for Hamas. It's a massive victory for Hamas. They actually have had victory parades all over the Gaza Strip, which means a massive loss for Israel. Israel will just have to do this again in a few years, suffer casualties, orient the entire life around the threat from the south. If Hamas and Hezbollah ever get their act together and work together, north and south, Israel is in big trouble. It's just status quo. And this is Benjamin Netanyahu not crushing the enemy. Now, I'm not sure any other Israeli government would crush the enemy, but Bibi was supposed to be tough. And it's not the international community. He's never been tough. Is a wimp, as I've said over and over again. And talking about Bibi Netanyahu and his wimpiness, it appears that the opposition parties have formed a coalition government. And that Bibi Netanyahu, for the first time in a couple of decades, will not be Israel's prime minister. Now, that's big news in Israel. The premiership will rotate from Naftali Bennett to Yair Lapid. Naftali Bennett is a you'd call him a right-wing collectivist, but he's also promised, we'll see what he fulfills, to significantly liberalize the Israeli economy. He has made explicit promises to work towards more free markets, breaking up government monopolies, getting rid of government regulations. Now, it's going to be difficult because part of this coalition has far left parties. Yair Lapid has historically been for deregulation as well, as have other members of this government. So it's going to be interesting to see how this coalition functions, given that it's got kind of socialist left all the way to right-wing collectivists, and but a significant number of people who are, oriented towards freer markets in Israel. So it's going to be interesting. And it's got the right wing, which is going to be tough on not giving in to the Palestinians, which again is kind of a veto power over any kind of deal that is cut in the future. It's going to be interesting. Now, part of the coalition, shockingly, for the first time in Israeli history, part of the governing coalition is an Arab political party. And not just any Arab political party. An Islamist Arab political party. So a religionist political party. And they've got some promises from this coalition to eliminate some laws that discriminate against Arabs, which is good. But what's interesting is some people are going to say, oh my God, I mean, these people are aligning themselves with the Islamist party. Netanyahu would never do that. Well, it turns out that until the last minute, Netanyahu was courting the Islamist party. The Islamist Party was getting all kinds of concessions from Netanyahu if they joined his political bloc. And in exchange, so Netanyahu was giving them promising all these favors. And what the Islamist Party did is they used that as a negotiating tool against the current coalition to get them to give them the same concessions. So no, Israeli politics, everything goes. Anything goes. So it's going to be fascinating to watch. Yamina, which is the name of the right-wing party, which just means right, literally the word right, and Meretz, which is kind of a socialist political party, they are two small parties at the edges of this coalition, and it's going to be interesting to see how they can get along and how they can actually form a government that works. It's going to be quite an achievement. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be fun to watch. Fun to watch. Somebody asked, why is Israel so spineless? For the same reason America's spineless. It's altruism. It's altruism. Israel's strong. Israel's capable. Israel can deal with missiles. We can't be too tough with the Palestinians. The world won't take it. Our own population won't take it. We need to sacrifice a little bit. Not so much as we all die, but we can't actually defeat our enemy. That's unacceptable. That's politically incorrect. It's altruism. Altruism. It's turn the other cheek, placate the enemy. It's what Christianity teaches. And Israel has learned from America. It's why the U.S. couldn't win the Vietnam War, couldn't win the Korean War, couldn't win the war in Iraq, couldn't win the war in Afghanistan. We're on the verge of bringing all the troops home. What Trump promised, Biden is actually going to do, which is bring all the troops home from Afghanistan. We lost that war. So, yeah. You want to ask a question? Super chat. Send in a super chat. You can do it with $2. You can do it with $5. You can do it with 99 cents. We've got a few people in 99 cents. The other day we had a dollar day. We raised a lot of money on dollar day. But yes, we're probably, I'm guessing now, we're probably at about 200. So we're probably halfway to the $400 goal. And so keep it going, people. Keep it going. Yeah, there's a fear of killing innocent people. Innocent in quote, of course. But some people indeed are innocent. Yes, I've got a whole list of super chats. I'm going to get to them soon. I wanted to get some of the topics on the title done before I got to the super chats. Of course, $20 super chats get priority, so we'll go to the $20 super chat first and then get to the other ones. Yeah, you don't have to tell me you sent money. I know you sent money. Take my question you want. I'm taking everybody's question. You have to be patient. Yes, I can take questions on PayPal. So just go to PayPal. Send in the dollar amount. Let me know here that you've done it and ask your question here. That way I don't have to open PayPal now to check it out. Or I could on my iPhone. I could have PayPal open just in case. Yeah, remember that Israel, you can't ask a question from Israel. So on Super Chat for some reason. It limits your ability. So, but I can definitely do it on PayPal. So yes, feel free to ask a question on PayPal. Submit it on PayPal, and I'll catch it on PayPal. All right. Let's see. Let's start here. I was listening to Objectivism Through Induction, which is, of course, by Leonard Peikoff. And Peikoff mentions that he wanted to write a full book on it, or that he wanted his magnus opus to be the theory of induction. Did he change his mind and do dim instead? I mean, yes. He did change his mind and do dim instead. Dim is, in a sense, the centrality of integration of epistemology, of a correct epistemology to history. And Dave Harriman published a book about induction in physics. So what Leonard discovered in trying to write a book in induction, and again, I'm not here speaking for Leonard, you'd have to get from him, but this is my understanding of what happened. In his work on a book on induction, he discovered that in order to write a book solving the problem of induction, presenting the theory of induction, he would have to cover a lot of science. And he tried to kind of get himself, in a sense, up to speed on the science by using David Harriman as, in a sense, a tutor, right? And he did that, but he came to the conclusion that he just didn't know the science well enough to be able to literally write a book that relied so heavily on scientific understanding. So he basically asked Dave Harriman to write the book on induction, primarily, focused on science. And Leonard then shifted, and the material he had worked on the book on induction led him to this idea of DIM, of the role of integration in human history, and that became his project, and that became his baby, and that became his, I think, what he considers his magnus opus. So I think it was the issue of science that really swayed him against writing the book, and Dave Harriman wrote that book. Wrote a book covering that, and of course Dave did that with significant support from the Ayn Rand Institute that funded his book, and it had funded his previous book significantly. So, just in terms of some history. Right? So you can find Dave Harriman's book on induction science, where the theory is really Leonard's, but it's illustrated by Dave through the history of science. All right, let's see. More super chat questions. Let me just check. I have to check PayPal periodically to see if the question has come through on PayPal. Not yet. Nothing yet. All right. Whoops. I just deleted all the super chat questions. Undo typing. All right, there they are. So that one we've done. All right. Most intellectuals I speak with think personal responsibility is unrealistic. A minority of highly capable people can live up to that standard, but many people are fundamentally impulsive and undisciplined. One second. I'm just trying to... Yeah, there we go. Yes, I think that's true. And that really is, it's not new. I mean, that is the view of Plato, and as a consequence, a dominant view in history. Most of us live in a cave. Most of us don't know reality. Most of us can't choose our own values because we don't know what the truth is. We don't know what reality is. It's why we need intellectuals, why we need philosopher kings to tell us what to think, to tell us what to do. Right. So, it's not this idea that people are helpless, that people can't resist their emotions, that people can't resist temptation. this idea is not a new idea. It goes back again to Plato. And it's proven over and over and over again false. When you leave people free to choose their values, when you leave people free to pursue their lives, they do a fantastic job at it. I mean, America in the 19th century had very few philosopher kings. People were basically left alone to pursue their own values. And they created this country. They built it. They made it. It wasn't politicians. It wasn't generals. It was people. Unguided. But when you coddle them, when you tell them they shouldn't take responsibility, when you tell them they can't take responsibility, when you hand them checks, when you force them to wear masks, when you force them to stay home instead of being responsible and socially distancing because there's a disease out, or testing themselves, when you tell them, oh no, we can't have you test yourself, we don't trust you. And when you have an educational system that spoon feeds children falsehoods, but doesn't expect them to think for themselves, then you create a population that cannot think for itself. You create a population that cannot be responsible. You create a population that is completely dependent on others. You get exactly what you incentivize. And here, in the modern world, we incentivize unthinking. So, no, I mean, people are amazing when they're left free, when they're not told they have no free will, when they're told they're just products of their environment, when they're not told that they're product of the color of their skin, when they're not told they're just products of fill in the blank. But when their assumption is that they're products of their own thinking, their own achievements, or lack of them, when they're made to suffer, not made by force, but made by reality, to suffer the consequences of their bad choices, and allowed to be rewarded by the consequences of their good choices, then they rise to the occasion. Remember, the intellectuals have a huge incentive too, to create a population that is completely dependent on them. Even if they don't consciously hold that incentive, it's there in the background. So, unfortunately, the intellectuals take the worst people and they use them as an example for all people. I mean, this is exactly my point from earlier. They'll take the Reddit crowd as the essence of investing. They'll take the gamblers as what investing is about. And then they'll say, see, anybody could do better than these Reddit people. And therefore, we need a central planner to guide their money to the right allocation of capital. Because obviously, markets have failed. Markets cannot do it. So we need the philosopher king, we need the intellectual to guide the funds to the right place. And that's how you get these intellectual elites detached from reality who encourage the world to be dependent on them. To be dependent on them. All right, we're at, I think there was $20, Robert, that came in before the show even started. So we're probably at, thank you, Robert, for adding up all the totals. Everything's in dollars today, so it's relatively simple. We don't have any foreign currencies to deal with. So you're you know. Yeah, that's right. Robert's right. You know, we're only at $214 because Robert's not a cute Venezuelan girl. Where is Alejandrina? Come on, people. Show Robert that you guys are not sexists. All right, we're halfway to the goal of $400. Couple of $100 will do the job, and still plenty of room for some super chat, for some good super chat questions to come in. Let's see. I gotta. All right, I've got a question that came in, but I don't think it came in from my Israeli friend. Whoops. I have to put in my password. All right. God. Okay. Feel free to answer privately or reformulate if you see fit. Thanks, Yaron. Yep. All right. I'll get to that question in a little bit, but that I'm wondering where my Israeli friend is who wanted to ask a question, because it hasn't showed up yet. I'll get to that. All right, let's see other $20 questions. Best friend Hank says he's already given $50. All right, well, where's everybody else then? I mean, basically today's show is best friend Hank with his hamburgers, and he's contributed $50 while flipping burgers. Where are the rest of you? That's the question. There's got to be $200 among you somewhere. See, all the whales have disappeared. I don't know. Stop watching my show. All the big money. Something's going on. We'll have to dig deeper to figure this out. Where are all the super chat whales who used to come in, drop $250, $500, and walk away? There's $20. Thank you. The guy, I can never pronounce his name. K Faxing Corp, something like that. This super chat is dedicated to Robert Nazir. I hope I'm pronouncing Nazir correctly. Since you're not pronouncing it, it's me pronouncing it. You're safe. Let's see. It seems like a positive sign for man's future that interpersonal violence is becoming so unacceptable, like hitting your kids or police being too rough with the citizenry. Yes, I think generally that's true. That is the thesis of Steven Pinker in Better Angels of Our Nature, which is an excellent book, which I recommend, except for the final chapter was his kind of his explanation for it. But he shows in that book that we have become steadily less and less and less violent. And he attributes that to the impact of the Enlightenment. And I agree completely. So as we've elevated reason, we become less and less violent. As reason declines, we will become more violent. But so far, over the last 2,000 years, or certainly over the last 500 years, we've become less and less violent from wars, personal violence. In every respect, the world is a less violent place today than it was in the past. And that is a huge positive. It's a huge positive just to the quality of life, but it's a huge positive for the future. In terms of the need for police, the need for spending money on police, but also for the sense of safety we all of us have, and therefore the sense of freedom, the freedom to create and produce and live and enjoy life and pursue happiness. So I think there's definitely positives in marginalizing the idea that violence is a solution to anything. That is huge in the promotion of civilization. I am not into the UFC, and generally I'm not into violent sports. Let's see. All right. Do you follow, this is a funny question. Do you follow the CDC guidelines on the proper handling of food products in the kitchen and also the cooking food to the proper CDC internal temperature? Do I get into trouble if I answer this? I mean, if there's anybody who works for the CDC, please close your, I don't know, is not following a problem with do I go to jail? Of course I don't follow. I don't know that there are guidelines. What the hell are the guidelines? Are they guidelines? Why do I need guidelines? It's like, wash your fruits and vegetables. I have to admit, I don't always wash my fruits. I sometimes eat them unwashed. Have a clean kitchen. Wash your plates. Yeah, don't serve ground beef rare. Not a good idea. You'll get sick. Just a bunch of common sense stuff. But do I follow CDC guidelines? No. Should the CDC have guidelines on proper handling of food products? No. 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 None of the government's business. Infectious diseases? Yes. Handling of food? No. So, I do not follow those guidelines. I don't know that they exist. I've never read them. I mean, do you eat based on the recommended food pyramid recommended by the federal government? I would argue that because some people actually follow the recommendations of our government, there's an obesity crisis in this country. I have tried, Matthew says beef tartare is really good. You should try it. I have eaten beef tartare. The last 2 times I ate beef tartare, both places in excellent restaurants, I got so frigging sick that I now will never eat beef tartare again. And it tastes good. I like it. But yeah, I got so sick I won't do it again. And I think it's the last 2 or 3 times that I ate beef tartare. So there's something about me, because my wife eats beef tartare and she had no problem with me. And yet I got sick and she didn't. So something in my system rejects beef tartare. Tuna tartare, I'm good with that. All right, let's see. No, it's not gross and disgusting. It's just... All right. Thank you, Coke. I really appreciate that. Let's see. All right. Just a reminder, we're at, what are we at, Robert? We're at about $250. Yeah, $7. Just over $250. $150 to go to make our 400 goal. So please join us. Wow, I got 2 thumbs down. I wonder what I said that offended a couple of people. Huh. Usually to get thumbs down, I have to say something negative about Trump. Ooh, I just got an extra thumbs up. No, I'm kidding. Or I have to say something negative. Maybe I said something bad about Hamas. I don't know. Would you say it's immoral, or maybe about Israel? I don't know. Would you say it's immoral not to choose to live? Oh, Shazbot. Whoa. That's amazing. Thank you. You should have used it. And, all right, Secretary, please review one of these exciting action films. No, don't. Oh, my God. No. What are you doing to me, Shazbot? First of all, it's not $500. It's $500 to review a movie. But why these? Like Independence Day, the first one, I don't know about Resurgence, was like the dumbest movie I've ever seen in my life. It was horrible. It was awful. It was terrible. Transformers, I've never seen a Transformers movie, but just based on the trailers, it's horrible, boring, disgusting, terrible. I could get into Fast and Furious, but I'd have to start with number 1. I can't skip to number 6. So that would be $3,000 to view all 6 of them. I'm kidding. Okay, he added $100. Here are the movies he wants me to watch. All right. All right, I think there's one of them I really want to watch. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I want to watch that. So that's definitely a movie I will review because The Wind Rises. Children of Men. Okay, these sound interesting. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is the Tarantino movie. I usually hate Tarantino movies, so I'm just warning you in advance. But these are good movies. So I will watch one of these and give you a review. Thank you for the $500. That's amazing. I really, really appreciate that. Have you ever tried a burger patty with cheese injected into the center of it? I've tried all kinds of patties. I don't think I've tried that one. I've tried one with like half beef, half lamb. That's good. I've tried one with like where jalapenos and all kinds of other stuff is mixed in with the patty, so it's part of the patty. That's fantastic. But I've never done one with cheese injected into the center. I guess it would depend on the quality of the cheese, what cheese it was. Okay, we got to... So, Shahzad, I'll definitely do one of those movies, and I'll try to do it faster than I did with Secretary. I apologize for how slow I was with that. Florida Henry asks, went to Israel 2 years ago. Was an interesting place, very welcoming to Americans. As an American, though our investment in Israel seems to be terrible. Let all the Jews come to U.S. and forget about the place. Yeah, I mean, when you're ready for open immigration, go for it. But part of the reason we have immigration laws is because Americans wanted to restrict, among other things, they wanted to restrict the number of Jews that came in. It's why, they wouldn't even take people who were escaping, running away from the Holocaust to come into the United States. They kept them out. FDR did because for that. Thank you, Matthew. I really appreciate that. Yeah, you'd have to change the immigration laws to allow all Israelis to come here. I'd support that, although I would view it as a defeat of Western civilization. If Western civilization can anchor itself in the Middle East, it's kind of ridiculous, right? It should be easy. I also don't think the U.S. government should give Israel any money. I don't see the reason, other than to purchase military technology from Israel or intelligence, military intelligence from Israel, like the Iron Dome. That's a good American investment because America gains knowledge in developing its own missile defense system. But Israel should get no money as charity from the U.S., and it does. It gets over $3 billion a year. So it should not. Just to be clear, I never have supported Israel getting money from the U.S. I consider it welfare. And just like I think welfare is bad for individuals, it's bad for countries. It's certainly bad for a country that could stand on its own 2 feet, like Israel, and doesn't, partially because why do it? Why do the difficult reforms when the Americans bail us out? Oh, another $20 question but from Stephen. Arnold Schwarzenegger said he hates the idea of having a plan B when it comes to your career, saying it undermines plan A. And all of the time you're putting into plan B, you're not putting into plan A. Do you agree? Well, it depends on a rational estimation of your probability of success with plan A. Right? How realistic is plan A? What's the probability you will be successful with plan A? To the extent plan A is something you really think you can achieve, you just have to work hard at it, then absolutely forget plan B, just run with plan A. But sometimes plan A is highly speculative. Maybe success is outside of your control. Then it's good to have a plan B. It's good to have a plan B. So nobody can make that estimation for you. Richard, thank you. Really appreciate it. Wow. Guys, we're going to make the $1,000. We're going to start June off with a bang. We should bang. We should get Yaron to color his hair. You should figure out how much money you would have to give me to color my hair. You know, somebody was, Michael was promoting this thing of how much money would we have to pay Yaron to skydive. Well, you should start a fundraiser to see how much money you'd have to give me to color my hair, and then what color, because different colors will cost different amounts of money. But my hair is for sale. For the right price, then the price is gonna be very, very high, beyond what most of you guys can afford. So it's gonna be like skydiving numbers, because I like my hair the way it is, and I hate the idea of coloring my hair. Now, $20,000 would not do it. It'd have to be more than that. So I agree with Arnold, particularly when you're young, when you have time, space, energy, focus to devote everything to plan A. But at some point, you could realize that plan A is unlikely to happen, or is taking longer than you would like, and developing a plan B is probably a good idea. I wouldn't start life with a plan A or B. Of course, it's nice to start life with a plan, because I certainly didn't. I had no idea what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. I had plan A, B, C, D, E, F. Let's see what sticks. Robert is offering to shave his hair for basically for $900. Sorry, Robert. You know, my hair means more to me than it means to you. It's just an issue of values. All right. I started answering this question. Never finished reading this question. Shazbot interrupted me in the middle with his attempt to get me to watch the Transformers. All right, would you say it's immoral not to choose to live if you're not facing a deadly disease or something of that nature? Well, I'd say it's a wrong choice. As an adult, I'd say it's an inconsiderate choice. I think morality only applies once you choose life. If you don't choose life, that's a pre-moral choice. The choice of whether to choose life or not is pre-moral. But I definitely think it's considering what life has to give, considering the joy, the happiness that can be provided. It's a choice that you would have to say is a wrong choice, that somebody needs to fix whatever problems are preventing them from enjoying life rather than dying. Do you think Giuliani will eventually get arrested and prosecuted? I have no idea. I just don't know. I have hopes. As you know, I despise Giuliani for a wide variety of reasons, but primarily because of his behavior in the 80s. I think there would be a certain sense of justice if he was prosecuted. But I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he's involved in some fraudulent scheme in Ukraine. It certainly seems like his associates were arrested for something like that, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was involved in that. He seems, as he's aged, to become sleazier and sleazier. So it really wouldn't surprise me. Now I'm going to get a, oh, I got another dislike. What did I say? I'm curious if somebody who gave me a thumbs down, what they thumb down. Is it the show? Is it something particular I said? Is it the background? I mean, what is causing the thumbs down on a show where I haven't barely mentioned Trump? Do most evil people start with a victim mentality, a sense of entitlement towards the world? I don't know. I'm not an expert on this, but yeah, I definitely think there's some that a lot of them do. And the way Ayn Rand describes Tui, if you remember in The Fountainhead, it definitely starts that way. It starts with a sense of their own incompetence, the resentment of other people because of the sense of their own incompetence. So I think a lot of it has to do, well, it has to do with self-esteem from a very early age, a sense of low self-esteem, not belonging in this world, not competent in this world, and then envy of those who are competent. So that victim mentality, that envy, and then, why is the world treating me this way? A kind of a sense of a victim that reality is inflicting on this, and then a lashing out against reality. Yes. Leonard Peikoff has touched on this topic quite a bit, and has talked about this. He has one on crime. But yeah, I think that evil develops through this process of a primacy of consciousness. I want stuff, therefore I should get it. Reality is not giving me the stuff, therefore I resent reality. I resent those people who do have the stuff that I want. I ignore cause and effect when it comes to why some people have the stuff that they have. And the focus then becomes envy, hatred, resentment, victimhood. Leonard Peikoff has a lecture called What to Do About Crime. Thank you, Henry, for pointing this out. What to Do About Crime, where he talks about this. I don't think he says anything that would have contradicted what I said, but it's a great lecture. I remember him giving it. I think it's a Fort Hood Forum lecture, and it's a great lecture. And he gets into the psychology of criminal mind, which I think is consistent with what I just said, but much better and more detailed. Basically, Leonard, right? Leonard Peikoff, the master. All right, while you're on, amazing video quality, but I miss your room. Get some nice scenery behind you. Don't worry, we'll get something nice behind me. There'll be bookshelves, there'll be maybe a sculpture. I still have to figure out exactly the range I want you to see, but I'll make it pretty. There won't be pictures on the walls because I need the book space. I need space for books. And I also need a bit of a more neutral background for business meetings. But I'm hoping to be able to sneak in a sculpture on this side, right over here. Books up until this point, all through the wall. And then something. And then highlighting my books for the show and then taking them down for kind of business meetings. So we'll see how all that works. All right, we're at exactly $915. Help us get to $1,000 just to make Robert's day, and of course mine. But thank you, Shazbot. Shazbot will have done half, 50% of the contributions for today, but he also gets a movie review out of it. So somebody step in, get us to $1,000, and make us all happy. Do you think Michael Moore is a talented filmmaker despite his immorality? A talented documentary maker? Yeah, I mean, I think there's talent there. He's definitely created a genre of style of documentaries. He's had a huge influence on the field. And yeah, I mean, I'd say he's a talented filmmaker. He's been very successful. And he's obviously philosophically evil through and through. think most intellectuals really know what altruism is, so Rand's challenge doesn't mean much to them. Oh no, well, they might not hold that in consciousness is what she means, but they in action they know exactly what she means. They know that need creates a desire, and plus, I even think that's not true. I mean, think about the effective altruism movement. Think about philosophers who clearly advocate for altruism, like Peter Singer, who's not embarrassed by it. Most intellectuals today know about effective altruism, know about Peter Singer. Effective altruism is altruism. It's altruism with a soft touch and altruism with a pretense of caring. I'm actually want to do a show, and I will do a show soon on effective altruism and utilitarianism and the choice of eating chicken or beef. But that'll be a show soon. Oh, best friend Hank is stepping up again. The boogers must have come out really, really, really good. So he's feeling generous and happy. Thank you, Hank, or best friend Hank, or Daniel, or whatever. So we're at 975. All right, $25. That should be pretty easy. So I do think intellectuals know what altruism is, and they, to the extent that they don't, or to the extent that they ignore it, they're evading. It's right there. It's right in front of them. And they behave as if they know it. And they advocate for policies based on it. So even if they won't explicitly say it, they behave, know, advocate based on altruism, whether they'll acknowledge it or not. Hollywood today caters to woke culture and mediocrity. Is there a chance that Redditors are putting money behind their 1990s values which are no longer being served in our current markets? What 1990s values? GameStop is not a 1990s value. What's the value in buying a game when you can download it, or you can get it virtually, or you can buy it on Amazon? Where's the value there? I mean, it's just nostalgia. And why do you think Hollywood caters to woke culture and mediocrity? I mean, I've seen some decent movies that have no woke culture. Yeah, they weren't great, but greatness is rare. But yeah, Hollywood is definitely mediocre, and it looks like it will be catering to woke culture. But I don't think. I mean, but these Redditors are part of woke culture. Are they rebelling against woke by buying Gamestop and AMC? Why didn't they go out into the streets and refuse to wear masks and march through the streets and refuse to be locked down? That would have been 1990s values. What are they expressing here? What is the value they are pursuing? They want to go to movie theaters? Is that the value that they're pursuing? I guess I don't get it. I mean, and I guess there's too much attempt to try to frame what's happening with GameStop and AMC in positive terms. And in my view, there's nothing positive. It's a bunch of bored kids enjoying manipulating markets. What are your inflation expectations? Fed says it's transitory. Do you buy that? I fear it might go out of control. I mean, I literally don't know. I don't think it's transitory. I think you're going to see a systemic increase in inflation. How high it'll go is hard to tell. How high the Fed will allow it to go is hard to tell. the tools the Fed has to eliminate inflation are very destructive to other parts of the economy. So to get rid of inflation once it gets started is going to be painful, very painful. Inflation's painful. Getting rid of inflation's painful. It's short-term pain getting rid of it, but it's still painful. I just don't see how we get around inflation. China, by the way, is experiencing inflation right now, and will be exporting that inflation because it's driving its currency value high, which means that it's becoming more expensive for Americans to buy Chinese goods, which is, in a sense, exporting inflation. It means prices are going up. And here we're talking about price inflation, not monetary inflation. So I see all the signs suggest that we're seeing price inflation increase, that it's going to be kind of on a global scale. But how it manifests itself, how high it gets, does the dollar collapse? I don't know. I don't see the dollar collapsing because I don't know where the money goes to instead of dollars. All the other currencies are pretty lousy as well. Negative interest rates still in the Eurozone. Anyway. Watch the titans who built America. Never realized how evil FDR was to them. He took away Boeing's business like a dictator. He raised taxes 75%. Yeah, I mean, FDR was horrific. But I started watching the Titans Who Built America. I saw the few episodes. It was just too mixed. You know, they portrayed some of these titans. They try to be objective about them, and they too negative. They're much... I mean, it needed to be tilted much more to the positive, in my view. Do you think politicians are selfish? No. Oftentimes I feel like they're only in office to advance a political career. And is it ethical? I don't consider advancing a political career as selfish. I think they're narcissistic. I think they're power lusting. I think they're unethical. I don't think they're focusing on pursuing their own happiness. I don't think they're focusing on pursuing their own flourishing as human beings. I think they're second-handed, unthinking nobodies. Corey, thank you. Corey puts us to $1,000 with his Australian dollars. Very cool. Thank you. We're all glad I figured out how to unban Corey. He's very generous on the Yaron Brook Show. So selfish means taking care of self, not pursuing irrational values like advancing a political career. At whose expense? To some extent, at your own expense. Selfish means pursuing rational values. Selfish means using reason, pursuing happiness. Right? So, I don't consider politicians selfish. I consider them mostly self-destructive. All right, so people are asking about my Vosh debate. Is it Vosh? I think it's pronounced Vosh or something. And again, I don't know anything about the guy. It should be, I mean, other than he's a pathetic, really, pretty bad leftist. The debate, I will stream it live on my channel. I will stream it live on the channel. Just like I did my other Discord appearance. At 8 p.m. on Saturday the 5th. On Saturday the 5th. At 8 p.m. And the debate is income inequality bad? And it's a topic I wrote a book about. So, not hard. People say I need to get ready for the insults. Vosh is brutal and cruel. I mean, who does that make? Who does that? Who? You know, when you get to that point, 8 p.m. Sorry, East Coast time. East Coast time. Who looks bad? I think the person who starts attacking and being brutish is, you know, what's he going to call me, a boomer? Is the one who loses the debate. So I'm not too worried about it. Can you smell hamburgers cooking on my charcoal grill in Puerto Rico? I mean, that's just nasty. I mean, you contributed a lot of money today, so I'm forgiving you, but God, I've just gotten hungrier and hungrier through the show. And I don't have a kitchen yet because the kitchen's not built yet, so I can't even go and make myself something, right? Do you think the disintegration of movie theaters will provide a boom to live entertainment, especially as it reemerges after a year and a half of non-existence? I mean, I think there's going to be a boom. I think movie theaters will do well for a little while. I think people will want to get out. I think restaurants are going to do well. The ones who survived will do well. And I think live entertainment will do okay. But I don't think, going back to the AMC valuation, I don't think it's enough to compensate for the AMC valuation. I think the valuation is way too, in orders of magnitude, way optimistic about the ability to recover and the ability to, AMC was declining well before COVID. Have you ever had to serve on a jury? No, I've been asked to serve, but I was never chosen. Never chosen. Why do you usually hate Tarantino movies? I find them uninteresting, gratuitously violent, nobody I like, no characters of worth, gratuitously violent, did I say that? He tries to be original in ways that I think are too obvious and, again, uninteresting and often imitative of European movies. So I've probably seen some Tarantino movies that I thought were okay, but I've never seen a movie of his that I thought was great. Right? The movie about slavery, I thought that was pretty good that he did. There's one or two or three movies that I like, but he's definitely unserious. He definitely got this unseriousness about him. What did you think of La La Land? I enjoyed it. I thought it was overrated, but I enjoyed it. I much preferred his earlier movie, the one about the drummer, Whiplash. Whiplash was an excellent movie. I thought La La Land had some good things, but I didn't particularly like the characters, and I didn't particularly like the ending. How do serious Christians justify being rich? Well, there's a whole evangelical school of thought that says that God wants you to be rich. And a lot of serious Christians, God wants them to be rich so they can give their money away, so they engage in massive philanthropy, and they feel guilty. So it's a combination of feeling guilty, knowing they're flawed, so they became rich through their flaws, and then engaging in massive community service and charity in order to compensate for it. But feeling guilty is a big part of it, an essential part of it. And then some evangelicals will find passage in the Bible that they interpret as God wants you to be rich, which is contradicts things like it's easier to get through a camel to get through an eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. So they have to rationalize it all away, feel guilty, do charity and community service. Okay, I got a PayPal question. Any thoughts on Jocko Willink and his approach to leadership and general life advice through extreme ownership? I generally think he's good. He's good in a sense that he is very much about personal responsibility, owning up, using free will and choices to improve yourself, to challenge yourself, to try to make the best version of yourself. I think what he lacks is the objectivist morality. What he lacks is the idea of morality, and in particular the idea of reason and being rational, and as a ways to achieving all that. But I think that the idea of strength, the idea of being accountable to yourself, the idea of being strong and not being a victim, I think all those are great. And he brings kind of a record of a Navy SEAL and a difficult background and upbringing and somebody who's achieved something significant in life. And I respect that in him. I think that all these self-help programs fail because they lack the essence. And the essence is a morality of reason and the role rationality plays. And these guys, like Joko, who talk about personal responsibility and emphasize the physical aspect of it, the getting healthy, getting buff, getting fit, all good things. But missing out on the role of reason and morality and a rational code of ethics to it. All right, here is an interesting question. It's another inside baseball question, but I'm going to answer it briefly, I guess. Thanks, Johan. What do you think of David Harriman? I heard that the book was essentially Leonard's and was populated with specific scientific content by David. So I think to a large extent that's right. I can't remember if Harriman recognizes that in his introduction or not. Upton, thank you. Wow, that's very generous, and I will get to your question in a second. I don't think Dave denied that fact. The fundamental philosophical theory behind the book is Leonard's. There were some challenges to the historical examples that Dave used, but I don't have an opinion about whether David's right or the challenges are right. You would have to evaluate that. But I think the theory is correct. Again, it's Leonard's theory. I think much of the science is probably correct, but I don't know that all of it. I'm not a scientist, and I don't know that all the history is correct. I'm not a theorist of science, but yeah, I think the book is excellent for what's that work, primarily because of the theory and its integration. Leonard did a lot of work on that book. He continues, I've watched David's Physical Science 1 and 2 courses from early days of Van Damme Academy. They were excellent. I've thought about contacting him regarding creating a curriculum, but I later discovered his affiliation with David Kelly and Open Objectivism movement. On the other hand, David seems brilliant, but on the other hand, what brilliant person could affiliate themselves with David Kelly and Open Objectivism movement? Honestly, and if he is dishonest or entangled with some other ethical psychological deficiency, should I steer clear? I mean, I would steer clear. And I would steer clear because I do think there are real psychological issues, there are real victimhood issues, there are, and I noticed these issues, noticed them a long time ago. Every little issue that Dave had with somebody, with the Institute, with anybody, he would run and complain to Leonard. He was a crybaby. And he never could deal with issues directly. He always dealt with them indirectly. He ran to David Kelly. I agree with you completely on your assessment of anybody who runs to David Kelly. I think there are real issues. You can see, if you go to his Facebook page, you can see his attacks on me, his attacks on the Institute after the Institute supported both his books, one that was never published, that he never completed, both his books generously, after all the years of supporting him, after all the years of building him up. he stabs us in the back in ugly fashion. His attacks on me, again, emotionalist, ridiculous stuff. His devotion to the whole Trump cause, but his and to the election results, fraud. But then the emotionalism with which he addresses all that is very indicative. Something happened to him along the way, or maybe he was always like this, I don't know. But something happened and he's gone off the rails. And I've written him off completely and I would have nothing to do with him. It's too bad because I do think he was incredibly talented. I think what he did for Van Damme was an amazing job. I have always had questions about how he treated modern science. Not always in the sense of, in the way he treated questions about, the way he dealt with questions about modern science, in the way he dismissed certain things. I'm just not sure he's right about them. But again, I'm not an expert, but people who I trust who know more about science always questioned and doubted him in terms of some of these things. But yeah, he was brilliant and did amazing work, and certainly was instrumental in helping Leonard come to understanding of induction, and then took that theory and turned it into a book in an amazing way. So I don't like him. I certainly don't like what he's become. I was pretty shocked by stabbing Leonard in the back, and off he goes to David Kelly after pretending to be Leonard's friend for years and years and years. I don't get any of that, but that's not to diminish the work that he did. The work that he did is significant and substantial. All right, let's see. Upton's question, which will probably be the last. How can one ensure their career growth stays in line with their long-term values? Can feelings of success, efficacy, and impact mislead one into conflating job success with pursuit of rational values? Wow, that's a good question. Well, I think the best way to ensure that career growth stays in line with long-term values is to, on a regular basis, consider what you're doing and why you're doing it, and consider your long-term values. Now, if there's a conflict between your career growth and your long-term values, and if you're feeling successful, efficacious at your career, you have to also question your long-term values. There's nothing to say that your long-term values are correct. So if you're getting that sense of efficaciousness and success, and that contradicts your long-term values, maybe your long-term values are wrong. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying these are the kind of things you have to consider. So the way to do it is just to sit down periodically, take some time off, go on vacation or whatever, and just think it through. If you've got somebody to talk it over with, somebody you trust, somebody you respect, who will help push you a little bit, press your buttons, get you thinking outside of the box, then use that person, in a positive sense of use, to nudge yourself to really, really deeply think about these issues and question these issues. But again, question both. Why do you have the long-term values? Do you have them because you convinced yourself at some young age that they were important? Do you have them because you're, let's say you're making money and your real goal is to become an objectivist intellectual? Why do you want to become an objectivist intellectual? Is there some other psychological thing going on? And I'm saying I don't know, but again, these are things that have to be assessed. But I would say that if you're successful at something and you have a real sense of efficaciousness, and you're enjoying your job and you like what you do, why is there this conflict? And you need to answer that. You need to think that through and have answers to those kind of questions. And ask yourself, what are my long-term values? Make them explicit. Why are they my long-term values? What do I think those long-term values are satisfying? What are they meant for? What are they achieving? Are they guiding towards happiness, or is this other thing? And then career growth. Why am I in this career? Why am I not pursuing my long-term values? What is it about those long-term values? What is it about those long-term values that make them values? No, sorry. What is it about my career that makes it inconsistent with long-term values? Am I really enjoying my career? Is this the most efficacious I could feel? What's holding me back, if anything? You got to ask the deep questions. And I think most people don't. Most people have success in life when they're young. They get on a path and they just go. And the path is a good path. But they never question, is it the best path? Is it the ideal path? Is it the path that maximizes my success at living during this period of time? I often say, you never get the second back. You don't want to be second best in terms of your potential. You want to be first. And you've only got one shot at it. So if you're in a career and it's satisfying, but it's not consistent with your long-term goals, and it's not as satisfying as you believe pursuing your long-term goals would be, then go for it. Give it up and go for the max. Go for those long-term goals. Go for the thing that you think will maximize your flourishing, your success, your thriving. Stephen says, I'm guessing that the thumbs down came when you said what Trump said he'd do, Biden did, bringing home the troops, which is just factual. It's just reality. I could hear my Republican parents flipping out in my head when you said it. What would they say? What is it about that statement could be questioned? It's just reality. Upton, really appreciate the support. Thank you. It has been a while since I've seen you on here, but I'm glad to see you're still following the show. Jack says, since you're selling tour hair color, is this enough money for you to tattoo my name on your forehead? Thanks for the show you're on. No, Jax, no amount of money. And it's not personal about you. I don't do tattoos. I don't think there's a right amount of money that would get me to do a tattoo. Certainly not on the head. But there is a active discussion on the chat about hair color and what kind of hair color. But the problem with the whole discussion is, and whether I should color my hair to appeal to a younger audience, I should probably do a facelift too. So I think a facelift, there you go. That took up 20 years off of me. Just a tuck over there, right? Facelift, you know, some nice brown hair with some blonde streaks. Just paint my hair a little bit, and I'd appeal to a younger audience, and the babes will be all over it. So that's what is needed. I need a makeover, but I don't see any money associated with it. I don't see anybody bidding for the hair color. I thought there would be a bidding war going on. All right, we are over $1,230. Andy says, love the show. Save up for more questions. When's the next rule show? The next rule show will be soon. I just got a regular sponsor for the rule show. So 2 rule shows a month. Every month for the next 5 months. So we're on. We're definitely doing rule shows. But I've got a bunch of shows. I've got to do a fintech show. I've got to do a effective altruism show. I've got to do a corporate governance show about how corporations are folding to woke culture. I've got to do a show about insider trading and Elon Musk tweets. So that's 4 shows before we even get to the rules show. So that's going to be 6. So we've got a stacked month. I'm not sure exactly what show I'm going to do tomorrow, but there will be a show tomorrow. So look forward to doing a show tomorrow. I'm not sure which one of these topics I will do tomorrow, but it'll definitely be a show. All right, everybody. I'll try to do a show with woke in the title because that immediately gets the live views doubling what they are right now. Talk to y'all tomorrow, 8 p.m. East Coast time. There'll definitely be a Yaron Brook show tomorrow, 8 p.m. East Coast time. See you all there.